It's Corinna, and I'm just going to pop in here today and do a quick training. Actually, it's probably not going to be quick. You know me, it's probably 20 minutes. But I wanted to share my findings and my results from my marketing strategy that I used this season to try and get CSA shares sold. The private pop-up Facebook group. I know I shared it with you at the very beginning when I started this group, and I wanted to kind of let you know it's now over, and I have it was a really good experience. There were some things I learned along the way. There were some good things, some bad things, and I kind of just wanted to walk you through the whole strategy, how it worked, and what the results were, in case you found it helpful and maybe something that you might try down the road. So I want to just welcome you guys to check in. I have a feeling you're probably not live right now because we are in the middle and the thick of farming. So let me just make sure I can see all you guys. And I'm sure that you're super busy, but maybe you can catch this as a replay later and listen to it. So first of all, I wanted to talk to you about how it works. So maybe some of you don't even know the strategy and the concept behind it. This is something that I heard about from Amy Porterfield. She is a marketing guru, internet marketing guru online that I follow. And she used this technique to build an audience and a list for herself to try and sell one of her products. I got sucked into it, and I actually ended up buying the product, so it was effective on me, and I thought that I would kind of share with you how I kind of copied that method. So how does it work? Let me see if this is even showing up. Hang on, because it's not looking like it. Okay, so yep, there I am. Good, my head's not cut off. Okay. So I started it, I honestly can't remember when I started the group. I want to say it was at the beginning of March, like March 1st, it might have been March 5th, but it was early on in March, and I just shut it off on May 1st. And yesterday, actually this morning I finished it. I deleted every single person in my group, and I have to tell you that was really hard to do because I looked at each one of those people as a potential lead for the future, and so the fact that I am deleting them from my sphere of influence was really hard for me as a marketer to do, but I did it. So I ran through May 1st. I promised them May 1st was the cutoff day, and then I honored that promise, and I did delete the group. So I had I think it was 132 members at its peak. And I will say, though, that out of those 132, I kind of stacked the deck on the front end. I'll talk about that more kind of towards the end. But I would say about 10 to 12 of those people were my own insiders, were people from my CSA that I asked to come into that group. I invited them in and said, I want you to be kind of brand ambassadors for me. And I'll talk about why I did that, because that was an intentional strategy. I would guess, I'm not sure, but just by looking at their profiles as I was deleting them, I would guess that maybe 5 to 10 of those people were farmers. People that somehow discovered what I was doing and were intrigued by the strategy and were kind of watching how I did it. Or maybe that's what I'm thinking they were doing. And so that leaves about 100 people that were legitimate leads from my local area, which is not bad. I thought that was a pretty decent number for my goals anyway. So what was the conversion rate? How many of those 100 people ended up signing up? Okay, so I don't have good, strong data on this because I don't have a shopping cart that is able to sync with, my lead pages or with my Facebook page to kind of show me that. Unfortunately, Small Farm Central doesn't provide that service, so I can't really tell for sure. But I get to see all the names as they come through and buy shares, and I recognized. As I was, as I was deleting names yesterday and today, I was kind of tick marking people that I knew had joined. And so just by that very kind of rough random tick marking that I was doing, I saw 20 people that I recognized. And I'm sure that there are some names that I didn't recognize. So I would guess it would be between 20 to 30 people out of that 100 people ended up signing up for the CSA as a result of being in that group. So that comes to about $9,000 to $10,000 in sales. So for me, that's a pretty good turnaround. And you know, in my perfect world, I would have loved to see a higher conversion rate, but it's really not a bad conversion rate. So my goals for setting up this strategy, and I'll talk about how the strategy works in a second. My goal was, I wanted to invite people into this private group that no one else could access unless you requested access. I wanted to really speak to a very specific audience, and I call them my warm audience. These are people that specifically came to the group because I told them I would be talking about CSAs, because I would be helping them decide if CSA was right for them. So I wanted to attract a warm audience. I wanted a very specific type of person in that group, because I can talk to them differently than I can talk to a random person on Facebook that doesn't know anything about farms and may not even appreciate good food. So my number one goal was to find a venue, to create a venue where I could gather a very warm audience and speak directly to them and speak to their issues, because I knew they would be interested. Another goal that I had was I wanted to build relationships with them. I wanted them to the phrase out there is know, like, and trust me. Really get to know who I was through our video interactions, through the content, the things that I would be talking about. I wanted them to see a little bit about who our farm was. I wanted them to see my personality. I wanted them to see if they liked my teaching style. And I wanted them to get to meet the farmer, and I was hoping that this would kind of build some sense of relationship. I also wanted to nurture, I wanted to capture the lead, right? And then I wanted to nurture the lead. So I think that this is an important thing that I realized as this went on, that I think that for some of these customers, they were ready to sign up. They just needed a little bit of coaxing, but I think some of them needed to be nurtured along in their journey. They weren't ready right away, and there were people that didn't end up signing up, right? But I saw this experience and this strategy as a long-term investment. This was a way for me to begin the conversation with them, introduce myself, and eventually, maybe a year from now, they'll convert, because I'll continue to interact with them through email or through my other Facebook page. So this was kind of an introduction to me, to my farm, to our program, and they're just not quite ready to make that decision yet, but maybe they will soon. So this group was, again, a place where I could nurture the lead and honor that process that sometimes a customer goes on the journey. They're not always ready to buy right away. Sometimes it takes them a while to warm them up. I wanted to capture their email address. That was another goal of this group, and I made a pretty critical mistake here. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I did want to capture the email address, because again, I knew I was going to delete this group, and so to honor that kind of side of the agreement that I made, I needed to somehow keep their information. I needed some kind of an email address so I could continue this relationship and conversation once the group was gone. And I also wanted to establish myself as an authority on the topic of CSAs. And I feel like that's something that definitely happened as a result of this. Anytime you get in front of a camera and you start talking as if you know something, and you do it over and over again, people start to see you as an expert. And that was definitely a strategic moment for me. I did it on purpose because, again, I'm looking at this long-term nurture, and if they continue to see me showing up on my business page doing tutorials and teachings, it just reiterates that this is a farm that's all about teaching. This is a farm that knows what they're doing. And then obviously I wanted to make a sale, right? I really wanted to make a sale. That was the ultimate goal, to get them into my CSA. But I also wanted to keep certain people out, and I think that's important. I've talked about that before when we did a video on customer avatars. You're going to attract people and you're going to repel people as a business, and I think that both are important. I want people in my group who are going to be a good fit, and I do not want people to sign up who are only going to be with me for a year, who are going to whine about how there's too much kohlrabi in the box or whatever, right? So I want to make sure that these people are educated, that they know what they're getting themselves into. And if that means that I repel them at the end of this process, that's actually good, because that saves me, the time next year to have to before March even began. So in the month of February, and I was mapping out all the different kinds of content that I thought a person would want to know. So I would say, if you ever want to try this is an important piece. This isn't just something that you spontaneously do. There was a lot of planning and forethought that went into this on our end. I was asking myself questions, okay, for all the different people along the journey, we've got people who are ready to buy, but we've also got people who know nothing about CSAs, they've just heard about it. So what's the information that I need to give them to move them along the journey? And I tried to put myself in the shoes of a customer in various parts of this journey and say, what are the questions they have? What are the speed bumps that are keeping them from signing up? What are the objections that they have? What information do they wish someone would tell them? When they go to a website about a CSA, what are they looking for? And what do they get frustrated about when they can't find it? And that kind of spurred me to figure out the topics for this particular, for my content for this page. And so here's what I came up with. And the first thing that I put out was an intro video. That was at the top of the page. I pinned it to the top of that private page for the first probably 2 weeks. And it was probably a minute long. It was just me in front of a camera welcoming them to the group, trying to build up excitement, saying, you did a great thing. I'm glad you joined us. Here's what you're going to learn. I'm so excited that you're here. And share your questions, one question that you hope I'll answer over the course of the next few weeks. So that was sort of a way to kind of introduce me initially, plus the question got a lot of comments, and I was able to identify from that post what was the information that people wanted to know. And a lot of the questions they had ended up being things that I'd already prepared. Not all of them, but most of them. And so that really helped clarify and kind of confirm what I needed to talk about. So the very first video that I did, this was a long form video. I sat down on a couch and put the camera in front of me, kind of like I'm doing now. And I had some notes that I was working from. And the topic was 6 questions you should ask before you join a CSA. I thought of this topic because I'd written a blog post about this a year before, and it went crazy, just kind of almost viral. It was a very popular post. People were sharing it, opening it, and reading it, commenting on it. And so I thought, you know what, this is probably something that people would really engage with. And so I put together that list of questions and kind of walk them through. The goal of that talk was to really get them to identify, are you CSA material? It's almost like take a quiz. Do you feel this way or this way? And in the process of asking those questions, I was teaching them. About, hey, if you want to join a CSA, this is how you should feel about farmers, or this is how you should look at X, Y, and Z. So that was a very popular video. It was also the first one, so there was a lot of excitement about the group, right? So there was a lot of engagement on that one. One of the other things that I did with almost every one of my long-form videos was I prepared a freebie giveaway to go along with each of them. And then during my talk, I referenced it. I said, hey, if you want to have all of these 6 questions in a checklist, I made a cheat sheet for you, and you can download it at sharedlegacyfarms.com/writecsa. And actually, that's still there. So if you want to go do that right now, you can download that so you can see what those 6 questions were, and it could help you maybe create your own video content. But to me, those freebies were really helpful, because what they did is they caused, when the person goes to that website, if you go to that website, it's going to ask you for your email address. And when you type in your email address, then it sends you a confirmation email that has this PDF download in it. But you can only get it if you give me the email address. So this was going to be the way that I was going to capture their emails. Since there was no way to do that in the Facebook page, I had to come up with a way to get their email for future reference. So I encourage you, if you want to go check that out, you can see what those 6 questions were. That was a really popular one. The second video that I did was how to find a CSA and how to decide between CSAs. This was another really long one. I think it was about 35 minutes, but it was really good. I got a lot of interaction on this one, a lot of views. Again, because I think this is sort of starting at the top of the funnel for people. If they don't know anything about CSAs, right? If you're a customer, first of all, you want to know, where do I even go to find that? So I talked about local harvest, and then I said, well, once you've identified which 4 or 5 farms are in your area, here are the things that you should think about. Here are the questions that you should ask as you compare them to figure out which one would be a good fit for you. And then my freebie was a checklist of those, I don't remember how many they were, 12 things to consider as you compare CSA. So if you want to see what that checklist was, you can go to sharedlegacyfarms.com/CSA research. And I already have your email address, right? So I'm not like trying to get your email address, but I mean that's a pretty good handy checklist, because if you ever decide to do a video like that, you can kind of use that for your bullet points in your notes. But that was a really, really great one, and I think for people who it also just kind of sent a signal to people like, hey, I'm not trying to get you to buy my CSA. Like, really, if my CSA isn't a good fit for you, maybe someone else is in my area. And so I want you to go through these questions and figure out what's most important to you as you decide. My third video was the 5 most common reasons why people don't renew their CSA. And I had some people in my CSA who were like, are you kidding? Don't talk about that. You don't want to talk about why you shouldn't join a CSA. But here's the thing. I felt like if I were a customer and I'm shopping around, I would want someone to tell me why people drop out. What are the reasons why people don't want to do this again? That's really important information. And so I put down the 5 reasons that I know that people typically give me for non-renewing at the end of the year. And I got a lot of people who were like, they were like, wow, I really resonated with that podcast, or with that content. I was thinking of some of those same issues. Because here's the thing, is I walked through the 5 objections. They're essentially the objections that customers have, right? Then I taught about how you can deal with that objection and how our CSA is helping fight that objection. So, one example of one was that people said, I wasted my food too much. That's why I dropped out. And so I said, listen, this is a common response, but here's how we as a CSA are addressing that this year. And it gave me an opportunity to talk again about this big research project I worked on this winter, how it's helped me create kind of a training program to help new rookies succeed at the CSA way faster. And so I was basically providing them with a promise that we're going to support them. We're going to give them ebooks. We're going to be doing tutorials on the private Facebook page. We're going to be walking alongside them with meal plans. Our dietitian is available, and we're going to be there to support them. And so even as I spoke to the objection, I was able to kind of counter it and say, but we have a plan for dealing with it. So there was really only one objection that was something that I can't do anything about, and that's, I'm going to be out of town a lot. I'm going to be on vacation. I won't be there to pick up my box. And I was like, listen, if that's you, don't sign up. And I was just real honest. But that was another really popular one. The freebie that I gave away was a sample veggie ebook. I think it was my Garlicscape ebook that I made. And I used it again as an example of, hey, here's an example of a support piece that we're going to give you to help you with this problem of, I don't know how to cook. I'm not sure I'll be able to use the whole box. Or I think I'm going to waste it. And I'm like, well, here's an example of the kinds of resources you're going to get from us. I also did a long form video on words of advice for CSA rookies from past CSA members. This one got a lot of downloads. People downloaded the cheat sheet. Basically it was like a 3-page PDF sheet where I just had all the advice written there. And you can get that at sharedlegacyfarms.com/advice. And I think you actually have it. If you joined my group early on, I shared with you the research findings of my CSA, or actually the survey results from last year's CSA members, and those answers are in there. But this was basically an opportunity for me to say, hey, I researched my customers. I did a survey at the end of the year, and one of the questions I asked was, what words of advice would you give to a CSA rookie? What do you wish someone had told you early on that you learned the hard way, and that you would now share with someone coming in new so that they can not make those same mistakes? And I got all kinds of really good responses, and I basically just compiled them into a PDF document and then gave that away, right? That would be like gold for someone who's on the fence, who's thinking about it, and they just want to see. It's almost like going to Amazon.com and reading the reviews, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to see all the different tips and tricks and hacks so that I feel like, yeah, I can do this. So that was a very common download. I got a lot of people wanting that. What am I on? Number 6. The 6th long form video was my last long form video. This was my signature moves video. So this is where I talked about, hey, there's a lot of CSAs out there in the Toledo area. I'm going to talk to you about what our CSA is really good at. We're all kind of known for our certain signature, and here's what I think our farm kicks ass at. And I talked about 5 different things. And again, it was a way for me to essentially highlight the offer, the CSA offer, and talk about how it's going to add value to them. That one was towards the end, and I purposely moved it towards the end because I wanted to be warming up my audience. I didn't want that to be my very first one out the gate. So I think that was a really good move. People were ready to hear that. They were almost ready to sign up. And now for me to confirm and say, look, this is what you can expect from us. This is why you should choose us. If this is what's important to you, you should choose us. I think that was helpful. I followed that up with a video where I detailed the offer, the official, here's what comes with your membership. If I could do something over again, I would redo that particular video because it's not the way I wanted to do it. I initially wanted to do it as a slideshow where I actually prepared this really beautiful slideshow with gorgeous slides, and it was kind of followed sort of a sales formula the way that you would do that. But I ended up not being able to get the software that would allow me to broadcast live through my computer, and so I couldn't do it. So I had to just stand in front of a camera and kind of talk about the product. So it just didn't feel right. It just felt really salesy. But there was at one point in this an opportunity for me to walk through, these are the things that you're getting when you pay $385. And I want to encourage you, maybe I'll do like a video about that separately, but I think that you should definitely sit down at some point, and maybe you've already sold out, but for next year, really sit down and think about what's in my offer. It's not just a box of vegetables, but what else can I identify that I provide for people? What else of value are they going to get as a result of signing up? And I used to just say things like, oh, you're getting a box of vegetables and you're getting a newsletter and you're getting invited to farm events. But now I've changed what I put in the offer because I feel like those aren't necessarily the things that people value. Like I know that people value the organic seal, and so I talk about that. That's like a thing in my offer. I'm like, organic. You're getting the organic seal on your produce. So that's like one whole bullet point. And I talk about the relationship with the farmer. Like the farmer is coming to every pickup site to personally hand you your box. Because I know from my research findings that that's the number one reason why people join a CSA, for the relationship with the farmer. So I speak that language in my offer. I say, this is what you're getting. So I'll walk you through that in a separate podcast or video cast, but how you frame the offer I think really matters, and you need to put together something that speaks to the values that you know your customer avatar has. Okay, I'm almost done. This was 2 months, right? So I had to fill up 2 months of material, so there was a lot. I'm kind of giving you the big brushstrokes. So these are all just the videos. Then I had some pre-recorded videos that were on my YouTube channel, and I just kind of linked it up so they could watch those. Those were kind of interspersed towards the end. I did a video on how a box is packed on the assembly line that I had filmed last summer because I wanted to show people kind of a sneak peek behind the scenes. I did another video on probably the most common question that I get from people who are thinking about joining the CSA, and it is, what's the difference between a full and a half share? So we made a video to answer that question where we literally show them this is what the box looks like, and we walked them through a sample, extras pickup line when they come and pick up their box so they can see how it's getting filled. And in that video, I pretty much said, listen, if you're coming into our CSA for the first time, you should sign up for a half share. I mean, I made that decision for them because it's so hard for them to make that decision. It's so funny. And if I just say, look, it's not hard, make the half share choice. Sometimes that really helps people get over the hump. If you just say, this is what I recommend. And they're like, okay. If I say 85% of my people get a half share, that just makes it so much easier for them to finally sign on the dotted line. Okay, and the last one that I want to bring up is that I did a Facebook Live Q&A session. I did a couple of them with Farmer Kurt at the kitchen table. And the first one that we did went bonkers. Like, people just ate that up. We had questions that people shared with me before the broadcast that they wanted answered, but I also had some that I had prepared, and we kind of mixed those in. We got a lot of really good interaction during that broadcast. The second one, not so much. I think that once they'd met the farmer, they were fine, but it was cool to see they wanted to interact with my husband, and they wanted to see who he was, they wanted to see how he talked, and he kind of told some funny stories and really showed his personality. And I would recommend that you definitely do that if you have a partner in this, and like in my case, I'm not the one that's growing, I'm the marketing girl, but if you bring the other partner in, the one who's actually growing, and you show up on camera, that's a big deal because they want to start that relationship with the person that they're meeting. Let me see if there's any questions. I don't see any yet. Okay. So that was the primary video content. I also tossed in some photos with some, cooking tips, or here's a recipe, or hey, here's a video tutorial that I did on my Facebook page, the smoothie formula for a perfect smoothie training, and we had like a pan sauce, how to make a perfect pan sauce training. I would link those up too, so that they could access those and find them. So my goal was like every 4 days to have some kind of good video content while they were still hot, while they were really interested in this, and there was momentum and energy. And so I was pulling it from I was repurposing it from some of my other places, giving away ebooks that I've written, so giving them the links for that and so forth. So, but those were the primary video teaching content, and like I said, I got some really good responses. So the basic formula for the video was I worked from bullet points, kind of like I do here. So I had a script, but it wasn't all written out. I wasn't reading from a script. I was just sort of looking at notes and talking through things. And that was stuff that I had to prepare in advance in that month before. So it did take quite a bit of time to kind of run this strategy. I always referenced a cheat sheet in my long form videos. Again, that was something I had to make and create, and then I had to link it up to lead pages, which would link up to my email service provider. And again, that's kind of an extra like 20 minutes for that process, just to build that system for each one. And I timed my videos. I figured out that the best time to do a live video was in the evening around 8 o'clock at night, when people in my area, so 8 o'clock at night, when they're done with dinner, the kids are in bed, and they're just kind of scrolling through their news feed. That seemed to be when I had the greatest engagement. And again, I also, as I was structuring my talk, I was specifically putting in questions to try and get the audience to engage, because in a live video broadcast, if you're going to have people there engaging with you, you want to try and ask questions so that they'll write back. Now, in like this case today, I know that no one's probably going to be on live to watch me, so I don't really pay too much attention to that. But if I was going on at 8 p.m. and there was a chance that you were going to be able to watch, then I would be thinking before this broadcast, I would be thinking about what are some questions I can ask along the way to try and get you to talk to me. So I definitely did some of that. The goal is to try and help them feel like I'm actually talking live to the farmer that I might end up supporting. So you have to be a little strategic about that. Okay, so how did I get people into the Facebook group? I want to talk about that right now. I had a few strategies. Number one, first of all, I asked my CSA members to pass on the word. So I have found that my greatest number of new memberships come from referrals from my old customers, my current customers. So why wouldn't you leverage that, right? If I tell my customers, hey, I'm doing something kind of creative here and innovative, I'm creating a private Facebook page for people who want to explore this topic more, would you tell them about it? If you know somebody, here's the link. I also created a video in my private Facebook group for my CSA members. I made like a 1-minute video in front of the camera where I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm making this private Facebook group for people to check out CSAs. It's going to only exist for 60 days. And if you know somebody that you think would want to check it out, would you please invite them? Here's the address where they can join. So it was a video post that were kind of my personal appeal to them. Okay, so that was to my own customers. I also emailed my customers and asked them the same thing through email. So I talked to them through my private Facebook group. I talked to them through my email. And anytime I emailed them, I reminded them of, hey, I've got this private Facebook group called Exploring CSA. Please invite people that you know who might be interested to join it. Here's the link. I also emailed my whole list. Okay, so I've got an email list of probably about 1,300 people, and maybe 400 of those are CSA members, and the rest are just people that have found out about me who are interested in my farm products. So I broadcast an email to everybody, and I said, everybody, I mean, even people who might be living in California, and I said, I'm doing this group. So that's just out to anyone who's on my page, and I said, share this with somebody that you think might be interested in this group. You can join at this link. Okay, and then I turned that did I turn that into an ad? I think I tried to turn it into an ad, and I think I got rejected because I don't think that you can, here's the thing, I think it worked the first time, but then I did it a second time. I tried to turn it into an ad a second time and it got rejected. And when I went back and looked at the Facebook rules, it said that you're not allowed to pull people with an ad into a private group. So somehow the first time around they didn't catch it, and I know I got a lot of people that way. So that's just something to be aware of, but I did try to turn it into a Facebook ad, and I put, $5 behind each one. Then, this is important, I built an email drip campaign. Okay, so before I started streaming ads to invite people into my Facebook group, this is so, so important. I built an email sequence drip campaign behind the scenes. I spent probably a week working on that. There were 9 emails, and they were timed to go out every 2 days. And they would get set off, this email sequence would get triggered when somebody joined my CSA leads list in my email service provider. So anytime that when I set up a document like one of my freebies that I told you about, if somebody were to enter their email address into the box to get the freebie talks to my email service provider and tags that person as a CSA lead because they went for this particular form. Now, once they get tagged as a CSA lead, it automatically triggers this 8 email series. So the first one comes immediately, and then every 2 days it drips out content. And in that very first email, actually it's in the second email, I spent the whole email talking about how the best way to learn about CSAs is to join my Exploring CSA Facebook group. It was well-written copy, really good, but I just put that all in there. And then the 3rd, 4th, and 5th emails referenced this private Facebook group in the PS of that particular email. So the email was talking about something else, but at the very end it says, hey, have you joined the Exploring CSA group? Because here's the link if you want to do it. It's a great way to ask your questions. So that was another strategy I built. I invited people into the group through the email drip campaign. So anytime someone would opt in to any freebie that I offered on my business fan page, I had it set up so that it would trigger the CSA lead. That means if someone came to watch my pan sauce tutorial and they wanted the formula for a perfect pan sauce, it would trigger the CSA lead. If they wanted to come to my formula for a perfect smoothie class online, it triggered, and they downloaded the freebie, it would trigger the CSA lead. If they go to my website on my homepage, within the first 2 minutes or 2 seconds, I have my lead magnet is a 55-page vegetable fruit storage guide, and a lot of people go for that as a freebie. But in order to get it, they have to give me their CSA, their email address, and again, that triggers the CSA leads email sequence. So this was a really key strategy. I wasn't relying just on my Facebook posts, but I had a whole drip campaign that slowly warms up the lead, gives away free content, talks about CSAs, answers their objections, as they're hopefully also in my Exploring CSA group. I hope that made sense. If you have questions about that, you can ask in the comments. Okay, so that's how I got people into my group, my 100 people. So now I want to end by just kind of evaluating how the experience went for me. I came in with, certain expectations. I was also nervous. I was afraid it was going to fail. I had put a ton of time into its preparation, and I'm like, man, if this doesn't lead to any sales, I'm going to be so bummed. That would have been like time wasted. So here are the things that I think I did well that really helped in this process. Number 1, I would definitely recommend, this was kind of just a stroke of luck that I did this, but it really helped. I invited 10 stakeholders into this private group who were already in my CSA, and I asked them to specifically be present, to be in there as much as they could to help me guide the members of the group. And the reason that was important to me was because I knew I couldn't be managing that group 24/7. And so if I had some people in the group that could be answering the questions, I wanted those questions to be answered as quickly as possible. So if there was a comment or a question, I said, listen, pretend you're me and share your advice. If someone asks a question, you can answer for me. Don't wait for me to do it because I need help. And what ended up happening was I actually sold a few shares because of my customers interjecting and sharing their thoughts and saying, hey, I've been in the program for this many years and this is what I do and it's been so great and this is how I've grown. You know, it was like they were giving testimonials. So that was a really smart move on my part. I kind of accidentally did it, but it ended up having a lot of weight, I think. I also chose those 10 people very carefully. I didn't just ask 10 random people in my CSA. I picked the people that I know are already brand ambassadors for me. Number two, the things that I did well that I think really helped is that I was speaking to a warm audience. I was tempted to do this kind of thing regularly on my fan page. And I did sometimes take the videos and transfer them over and copy them over to the main business fan page. But I feel like I was speaking to a warm audience. I had attracted a group of people that wanted me to talk about this. And so as a result, it really freed me as I was preparing the content, as I was in front of a camera. I didn't feel so salesy because I knew that the people that I was talking to legitimately wanted me to talk to them about this stuff. And so I think that was a really good strategy to do it within a private group, to attract people to be real honest about, hey, this is what I'm talking about. And no bones about it. If you're not interested in CSA, don't come in here. Okay, we're going to talk about CSAs. So speaking to a warm audience and developing that warm audience was huge. I also addressed topics that were in all areas of the funnel. And if you've studied marketing at all, you know this concept of the funnel, that people kind of start out here, you've got cold audience, and then as they get to know you, you warm them up until finally they're at the bottom of the funnel and they're ready to buy, right? So in that customer journey, you have to create content for all different stages of the funnel. And so as I was building those videos, I was really trying to address the many different places where people might be so that I could move people along that path. You cannot just move right to the offer. You can't just be doing posts all the time about here's what a CSA share is. This is what you get. I mean, that's salesy. You can't do that all the time. People expect you to try and sell them your product from time to time, but you have to give value more often than asking for a sale. And so again, that's part of the journey of this creating content for the funnel. You want to give information. You want to add value to them. You can't just start out with the offer. That's too much too soon. I got a lot of responses and comments from people that went something like this. They said, I can't believe how much time you've put into this. What a great resource you have been. So there was just this overarching sense of generosity from people. Like, wow, thank you for taking the time to educate me. Thank you for taking the time to address the questions that I have. So even if they don't end up buying my product. I mean, I had people that were in other states that I knew weren't going to join my CSA, right? But they too were saying, thank you, this has been so helpful. So having a culture of generosity in this page, I think, is really huge because it just told my audience, like, I'm giving. And now they know that when they join my CSA, that pattern is going to continue. We're going to be a generous farm. And I think that it created almost a sense of reciprocity, like, because you've given me so much, I want to support your farm over that other CSA farm. Other things that I did well, the Q&A with Kurt, definitely do that. Offer at least one Q&A. That was a huge hit. And I think the timing of when that Q&A happens in the evening is important too. All the freebies that I gave away, another big thing, because that was what allowed me to get people's emails. It again fostered that sense of generosity. Like, wow, not only are you creating this long form content video, but you took the time to make this really awesome piece of information for me that I can take home. That's huge. So it just made us look like we're generous. And I also reposted videos onto the business page for more reach. So that was something I figured out that I needed to do about halfway through the process. I was like, you know what? When I kind of stopped gathering leads into this group, I became aware of the fact that I'm producing such great content in this private group that no one out here is even hearing, and I can't attract any more audience for some reason into here. So I started taking, once I recorded it, the really good stuff I would take out of this group and I would republish it. And there's kind of a background way to do that on Facebook. You have to save it in a kind of a weird way so you can do that. But then I would stick it on my business page and repost it. And because it was a video, it would get good traction and good reach. So I was able to attract and get more people to find out about my farm. So those were some of the things I did well. Now I want to talk about the lessons that I learned, the things that I would do differently. And there are quite a few things that I would do differently. I don't regret this decision, I want to say, first of all. And I would do it again. I would do it again. I would do things a little differently, though, and let me talk to you about what those big ones were. First of all, I feel like 60 days was too long. If I ever do a pop-up group again, it's going to be 30 or 40 days. Because basically, I started out strong with my content. I was excited about it. I was really motivated. I was checking those comments left and right. And after 30 days, I was exhausted. Like, I was just exhausted from it. So I was losing my momentum. And if you were in the group, or if you could go back and look at it, you would see that it really tailed off. Like the last 3 weeks, I was hardly active at all. I was kind of just like, oh, I got to think of something to put in there. But I put all my good content in the first 30 days, pretty much. And I kind of ran out of steam. And then I could just tell that the group was running out of steam. They gotten what they wanted. All the good stuff was already there. And I didn't really have a whole lot more to add. So if I could do it again, I would shorten the time period. So I would start it later. I would probably start it April 1st, when people, at least in my area, are really getting hungry to join a CSA anyway. I would kind of build up a lot of, say, hey, get into my group, but I wouldn't start the content until April 1st, and then I would do a full month worth of content, then I would be done. I think I would also kind of create some kind of urgency mechanism. That's something that was missing this year. And any good sales funnel always creates urgency. At the end, it'll either be you're running your deadline is this long, or the price goes up, or you get a bonus if you sign up by this day. If you don't, this incredible bonus goes away. You know, some kind of method like that would force people to act. And I knew about this concept, this principle, but I didn't have the guts to say on May 1st, my price goes up $30. Because if I did that, I'd have to do it across the board for everyone, right? Even the people that weren't in the group. And I just wasn't ready to do that yet. But that's something I would kind of strategize better next time. The videos, I felt like some of the videos were too long. And it's really hard for me because I'm just long-winded. So I have to figure out a way, it's really good content, maybe I need to break it up into smaller pieces. So there's 2 videos that are 20 minutes long each. But I have a feeling that some people watched maybe the first 20 minutes and then would give up and not finish the whole thing. So that's something I need to figure out as well. Okay, this was a really big mistake. And I figured it out like the second day of the group. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. So I told you that one of my goals was to capture people's email addresses, because emails are king for me. Like, I need to build my list. A lot of these people didn't sign up, but I may be able to get them to sign up next year if I nurture them all year long, all season long. And then they'll be like, wow, I've been getting really good content from this person. I'm ready to sign up. So what I should have done is, when I advertised to people to join this group, the link that says to join this group, click here, that link should have taken them to an opt-in page, to a page where they had to enter their email. And then once they gave me that email, it would take them to a confirmation page that showed them the link for the Facebook page. That's what I should have done. Instead, I bypassed that middle piece. I did not capture their email address, and I sent them right to the Facebook page. And in the process, I lost the ability to get their email. So now they're in my private Facebook group, right? And I have to try to find ways and hope that they're going to opt into those freebies so that I can get their email address. But I know that a lot of people didn't. And so as I was deleting those names yesterday from the group forever, it was just killing me. I'm like, oh my God, these are people that I could be nurturing down the road, and I am now getting rid of them forever. I actually considered taking the group and just changing its purpose and saying, hey, I'm gonna keep this around. I'm gonna keep this around all summer long. You guys are gonna be my CSA leads group. We're just gonna I wouldn't call it that, but I would continue to give content to them throughout the summer to warm them up. So it would be like another Facebook group that I'd have to groom and nurture with different kinds of content to kind of keep them engaged with me. But I just decided I don't have enough bandwidth right now to be doing that private group, as well as this one, as well as my CSA group, and I've got my staff. I have a private group for my staff. It was just too much, and I just said, I don't think I can do that. So next year, I might consider that as well. Another thing that I really wish that I'd done is that I created a screencast for my offer. And I think I talked to you about that. The good news that I just found out a couple of days ago, Facebook Live is now possible from your desktop. So if you go to your private page or business page and you click on, I think it's on Other, you'll see that it shows up as a possibility to do a Facebook Live on your desktop, which is huge because you can put up, a slide share, and you can just be talking through the mic and people see whatever is on your screen on the Facebook Live. Isn't that awesome? So, for next time around, we'll be able to have that possibility where I can walk through the offer with a slideshow as I talk behind the screen. They won't see my face, they'll just hear me, and then they can kind of see the offer as I build it. So that is a really great feature that Facebook has just released in the last few days, and it really can open up some possibilities for you in terms of training. I mean, you could show people how to access your website, you could show them how to sign up for things, you could show them how to buy things in your store if something is difficult to navigate, you could walk them through some kind of a document that you might have on your computer. It's just really, really powerful. Okay, my last comment is there is something called minimum viable product. And the MVP, and this was a concept that I kept thinking about all these past 60 days. The idea behind minimum viable product is that you want to put the least amount of energy that you can to get the most bang for your buck, right? So yeah, this whole process, this whole strategy led me to 25 sales probably, but was it worth all the time and energy that I put into it? Or could I have gotten those same 25 sales in another way with less energy and less investment on my end? That is the question that we should all be asking as we think this through. And it is one that I have gone back to over and over again. I'm like, listen, this was a ton of work. I'm not going to lie about that. If you were going to set this up, you need time. You need several weeks to build this. But I've also given you a framework, right? I've kind of showed you the good topics so you don't have to think about the topics, and you have these cheat sheets you could go back and look at. So, I mean, that's helpful. But there still is a lot of stuff on the front end that you have to put in place for this system to work. Was it worth it? And I go back and forth. Like, if it's true that I only sold 25 shares out of this, I don't know if that's worth it, because I think I could probably have sold 25 shares without working so hard if I just waited until May. However, now that I have built the machine, I feel like I have all this great content that I can repurpose in the months and years ahead. So I almost feel like I can recycle this. And I don't know if Facebook's going to be around in the same way next year, but at least I have the framework and I have the content, and if I just have to tweak it so I can do it next year. I've got these PDFs and these checklists and these cool things that I can put on my website and use as lead magnets and giveaways and in other ways. So in some ways, yes, I invested a ton of time for this strategy, but I can repurpose a lot of the stuff that I did to help me build leads all year long. And so I feel like, yes, it was worth it. And it also taught me a lot about marketing along the way. I mean, I just grew a ton. I learned some things. And those lessons are going to help me get even better next time when I build my next marketing campaign. So, hey, that's all I have for you. That was oh my God, 49 minutes. I am so sorry. I hope you made it to the end. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions about this strategy, shoot them my way in the comments. And I will try to create another movie next week, probably about how to craft a CSA offer, even though it's kind of late to be talking about that, since you're hopefully almost to your sales goal. You guys have a great rest of the week. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.